Hey, Dan Nelson again, Missional Counselor. Now we're at chapter 11, and your life as a professional. And this is subtitled The Important Stuff They Never Taught You in Graduate School. I think any profession has that happen. But just important things that are practical advice for you to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. All of us are different. You can call yourself a counselor, but there's different applications of that and just of their personalities and their styles on how we understand what even that phrase means. So you'll emphasize different things. And just going through a sense of knowing, more elaborating on a sense of your community, like I had mentioned before with the church. There's just some things where you are in a unique position if you're being a member of the church as a whole, at large, in your community, realizing the uniqueness of that where as a therapist, and especially if you're a therapist in a bigger agency that's known as to be, by good reputation, a good counseling, Christian counseling organization, your ability to connect with groups, small groups, any group, smaller group of any size, even in your church, on what position you take there, whether you're an elder or any leadership position, should you, because of the dual relationship issues that any ethics board, any licensure board, and the ethics they produce. There are like the American Association of Christian Counselors, the American Counseling Association, American Psych Association. Those will always basically talk about that sense of dual relationship. Just be very aware of the ramifications, where basically I'm challenging that if you're called to this, you need to let your therapy, your position as a therapist, a counselor, be number one. And the other areas that you're plugging in on, you may not get that privilege like other people do. Just because you're going there, you might see some clients there, or you do forego, as you build a relationship with those people there, as a friend or a fellow member of that particular organization or group, they won't be able to then see you as a therapist, as a client, and you as their therapist at that point going forward. So just be aware of that, because if you try, that's where I see issues with people being locally in a smaller rural area, just a small area, that's where there's some compromise that happens, and it sets you up to a disadvantage in the future. So you shouldn't do that. So just be aware that there's certain things you're going to have to limit yourself on. Make sure you got good quality personal relationships with people who aren't your clients, but that you have a good, solid, maybe small group that you are part of, and then friendships that build out of that. That's important with non-therapy people. It's always good. Keep it balanced in that, and kind of know, some of us think more blue collar, some of us think more white collar, so you'll surround yourself with people that make you feel like you, and that's important. And that's what this chapter is more about, is learning how to do that. And basically, some thoughts on practical things about taxation, licensures, making sure everything's in place so that you don't find yourself snagged later on in that. So.